In this video, we'll dive into TYPO3 sets and you will get a good feeling of how to use them and how they can help you and make your life easier developing TYPO3 websites. Hi, my name is Yasin. I'm a TYPO3 developer and I will try my best to help you become an advanced TYPO3 developer and reach your potential. So guys, let's get started. So this is the documentation of the site sets. As you can see, they have been introduced in TYPO3 13.1, as you can see here. So the idea behind site sets is simply to bundle configurations, and instead of defining multiple configuration in different places, we can bundle them together and simply upload them to our site. So we can actually include TypoScript configuration, we can include page.ts configuration, we can also include site settings configurations, and yeah, things like that. So we can directly get started. So I want to show you how to create a new set and how to bundle your configuration inside a set. So the idea is simply to load one set into our site and get all that configuration loaded in our site. So before TYPO3 13, we would have been including each configuration as a separate entity, but with TYPO3 13 we can bundle them together inside a set and simply include them. So this is my TYPO3 dummy project. As you can see here, this is a composer project. Under packages, I have a custom extension where I will be creating my set, which I will be later including in my site. So under my extensions, I have the folder configuration, and under the configuration I must create a new folder called sets, and then inside that sets folder I will be creating my set. So as you can see here, for example, I have already defined a set called page set. I can define multiple sets which I can be later including. So let's get started. So let's start fresh. I will be creating a new folder called, let's call it, for example, YouTube set. So as you can see here, guys, I have my YouTube set. I can go here and say, for example, let's define a new TypoScript configuration called setup.typoscript. But wait a second, guys, before that, let's actually define our set. Let's take a look at the documentation. So as you can see, this is the structure configuration. So as you can see, my extension configuration, then sets, and then the set name. In our case, that's YouTube set, and then config.yaml. So this is the configuration file. In this configuration file, I can declare dependencies, so my set can be dependent upon other sets. And I can also include optional dependencies. That means if the dependency exists, if the set exists, then I will be loading it, but if it doesn't exist, I won't be thrown an error, so I would simply ignore it. But when defined the dependencies, when it doesn't exist, then I won't be able to load my set. So let's get started. You need a name, so this is composer type name, as you can see. We can also do something like this. Let's do something like this. Under my YouTube set, I will be creating a new file, config.yaml. So I will call it YouTube set, as you can see, guys. So now I've simply defined a set. I can go here to my TYPO3 backend. I will flash all caches and I will go to my sites. I have two sites here. Let's pick this one. As you can see, I can include it here. So I can include it to my site. So I will do something like this. As you can see, this sets I've already included. So we can do something like this. I will save. And now it will load all of my configuration. So let's take it step by step. I will first create the files that will be later loaded or can be later loaded. So let's say I have setup.typoscript, I have constants.typoscript. Let's go back to my documentation. They must be listed. So this is, as you can see here, the page TSconfig. As you can see here, the files, as you can see here. So we have the TypoScript provider, we have the page TSconfig provider. So that's all we need. So this is the full structure. So we have the config.yaml. This is our definition of the set. And then we have our TypoScript. And then we have our page TSconfig. And then we have our settings.yaml. This is when we want to override or to create a new settings in our site, so which I can later be using as let's say as constants in TypoScript. So I will be later be using it in the setup.typoscript. So in the settings.yaml I can override settings, I can create new settings, and yeah, this is the important files that we need. We have also other files that we may need, I will be also discussing, but this is the most important ones. So let's go back. As you can see here, let me go here and say page.tsconfig, and let's create settings.yaml. Perfect. So let's do something like this. Let's go here to my backend. Let's go to TypoScript. Let me go to my site here. As you can see, it tells us that this is a site set. I will go here to show my active TypoScript. This is my active TypoScript, which I can override. So if I go here and do something like this, let's say, for example, I want to empty this bootstrap. So simply, as an example, I will go here and do page dot 10, I think, dot include CSS, include CSS dot let's say bootstrap. Let's, for example, leave it empty. Let's do something like this. Let's see what happens. So I will clear all caches, and then I will reload my TypoScript. So 1 second, guys. Let's do something like this. So include, let's, for example, do something like this. bootstrap. So let me do this, and when I reload my frame, as you can see, it has overridden it. So the thing is, so I will open a new tab so that we can see what happened. So if I go to my sites, so if I go here to my sites, I have all the sets, so that include CSS, that include bootstrap. Configuration came from this set, but I've loaded my new set after the old set. That means it was overridden. Unlike that, I can override things in TypoScript if I want. So let's keep going, guys. So I've shown you an example how to override things in TypoScript. I can also override them. I can also override some constants. It will be the same way as in TypoScript. I will just go here and override the constant in my constant.typoscript, and I can also, let's for example do something like this. Let's say test include css equals, for example, and I'll go here and do something like this. So let's see. I think I have a typo, guys. 1 second. So I think, I'm not sure, I think I have a typo. 1 second. Let's take a look here, for example. So yeah, so as you can see, I've made a typo. If I go back to my setup and do something like this, if I'm not mistaken, so if I go here and do something like that, it should, as you can see, it simply gives test.css. So I can define constants and can simply call them in my TypoScript setup file. They will be directly included, and we can directly call them. So let's keep going. I can also show you another thing that we can do. Let's say I want test setting CSS. I want to call it, for example, test from settings.css. Let's see, I want to do that. So I've defined, close that. So I've defined a new settings inside my settings.yaml. So this is simply simple settings. So they are simply constants that I can also define in YAML. I can also use them inside my setup.typoscript. So if I go here and say, do something like this, they will also be given as constants. If I go here and say flash all caches, so let's see if it finds it, constant users. So 1 second. we must do something like this. So exactly. So as you can see, what TYPO3 does, it gives us two ways to define constants. So it first looks inside the constant.typoscript and checks if there are constants defined there. And then it looks inside the settings.yaml. So if there are constants defined inside the constant.typoscript, it won't work. But we must choose either going with the constant.typoscript or going with the settings.yaml definitions. We must choose in our site set whether to go with the constants TypoScript or to go with settings.yaml. So let's keep going. As you can see here, it simply worked. So let's keep going. We can also include page TSconfig. So let's give an example. Let's go, for example, to let's see if I have any active page TSconfig. So let's, for example, simply change this. So let's say I want to override this in my page TSconfig. So I will do something like this. Did CA for pages dot pages dot doc type dot add items dot add items. Then I will get this ID, then icon, then override icon new set, for example. So obviously this value doesn't exist, so this is simply a TCA form override. So as you can see, I've simply put override icon YouTube set. So I hope I don't have any typos. So let's go here. As you can see here, it has simply overridden it. So we can simply see my page TS configuration overriding this page TS configuration. So as you can see, they are automatically being loaded. So let's keep going. Another thing, guys, you can also use the settings.definition.yaml. That means the idea behind the settings definition, let's say I want my test setting CSS to be an integer. So I don't want to let other people be able to set here non-integer values, for example. I will be using the settings.definition.yaml to define that. I'll give you an example. I will see soon together an example, but the idea behind it is simply to define what type of settings my variable can be filled in, with. So as you can see here, if I simply define constants inside the settings.yaml, I can define whatever I want. They can also be overwritten with whatever values. But let's say I want my test setting CSS to be simply an integer. I would be using this settings.definition.yaml. So let's have an example. So settings.definition YAML. I hope I have written it correctly. Definitions .yaml. So I will copy paste from this one and I will explain. So what this does, I can define categories and I can define settings. So for example, as you can see here, for example, let's say my let's take a look, my value, my constant here defined in the settings.yaml, this one, let's say I want it to be integer. So as you can see, guys, this is simply dummy data. So, and I'm giving it a default value, for example. So let's say I want to define new category, let's call it YouTube, and then here define my category. I will show you what this category does. So if I go here and I have this module under the site management called settings. Let's first clear all caches. If I go to settings, so as you can see, I'm already getting an error, as you can see, because, so as you can see, so as you can see here, I'm already getting error because this is not an integer. So let's set it to 4, for example, and then do something like this. So I think it is also finding another error, and that's the label here. So I will do something like this. So 1 second. I will do something like this. So guys, we can define the labels for these categories, which will be shown later in the module inside the labels.xlf. So I will go here and simply copy this XLF file. This is like the translation files in TYPO3. I will remove this because we don't need them yet. So we don't need them yet. Let's call it, for example, dev YouTube English. So let's go here. It should find this label. So it should actually 1 second, guys. Let's keep going. Let's give it here. So perfect. As you can see, there is not there yet because I forgot to give this category a label. I've given it this label, which we will take a look how it will be shown. Let's go here. As you can see, guys, it will be shown here inside the settings module, and in the settings module I can simply set things. So if I go here and do, for example, I'm trying to write now, but it is not letting me write because it is an integer field. So if I go and do save, it's saved to 2. So I technically can't save non-integer fields, and that's the idea behind the settings.definition. That's not to let the user define whatever he wants. But let's say if I want to define a constant that can be simply defined filled with whatever, so I would simply not use the settings.definition. Perfect, guys. So since we're at it, so there is also the file labels.xlf, and that's when using multiple languages. So let's say I want to have, as you can see here, the label is empty because here in this settings I have not given a label. But I think if I do something like this, let's say label test settings, for example, if I do something like this and then reload, then it should be shown here, as you can see. Or we can also use the same way, that's the clean way, and go here and define it like this. for example, like this, settings as prefix. As you can see, categories as prefix. This label is the label of the set name. So this is the set name. So let's say I don't define a label here. Let's remove it. It will look here and get this label. So let's go here and remove. Let's reload. As you can see, it should be, or maybe I have a typo. Settings. Maybe I have a typo. Settings. So, or let's check my other file. So 1 second. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, I think it should have this prefix, so it should have the category name prefix because it will look for it, I think. And then and then here when we do this, let's take a look. So as you can see, yeah, TYPO3 in this new sets follows strict naming convention. So as you can see here, it wants us to define the category as a prefix, and which later will be used inside this labels.xlf. So the idea behind the labels.xlf, I can define, let's say, French, I can define German. So this works the same way as the localization files in TYPO3. Yeah, guys, so I think that's about it. So this is the most important things that you need to know about site sets. You can obviously define multiple site sets for different things, so different use cases. And yeah, I find it really interesting because it saves us a lot of time, and it helps us simply bundle configurations together. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe, and yeah, comment what you want to see next.